So,
all right, so I guess we can get this show on the road. This is going to be fun because I usually do this with the two screens, so I have like all my notes. Unlike Frankie, I don't want to work without net. But I will tell you. So, all right, let's get this going. So, I'm Fernando Gutierrez, for those of you who don't get ready.
We got a little.
Okay, you want louder? I can do louder.
Do louder, because it's a bigger room.
Yeah. Just feels like I'm yelling, but I'm not. Okay, so, today I'm going to be talking about Latin American futurisms, basically different futurism movements that I've learned about. Anyway, there are more that I'm always learning about. This list has gotten longer since I presented it with someone else a while back. Because our theme is being and becoming human, decided to title it Rehumanizing Latin America. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Before I get into the presentation, I did want to give you a little bit about my background. I was born in Uruguay in South America, came to the US as a baby pretty much, and have lived my whole life here. I am bilingual, English and Spanish, so I've always kind of lived with one foot in each world, kind of like the Anglo-English American world and the American Latino world, you know, kind of home and school or home and work or whatever. And now, I guess you could say now I almost have a foot in the third world. Sometimes literally, but not. Hopefully not so much. And that has been exploring Latin America. As someone from Latin America, but who isn't exactly from Latin America, and connecting with futurists and authors and creators in Latin America, and just about how that journey has really been, it's been an interesting journey. And through science fiction, through speculative fiction, and through futurisms, all these things have really kind of helped me explore the cultures, the concepts, the nationalities, the ideas. And so what I wanted to start with was I do have a couple of books here that have kind of mirrored my evolution through my understanding of futurisms and speculative fiction. So starting with, I've got 2001 in Spanish, and that's kind of how I was introduced to science fiction in Spanish language. So, which is really, I mean, it's Arthur Clarke. He's not Latino at all. And then you've got works like Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which again, it's a great work. It's funny. But it's a Gothic novel, so it still is carrying a lot of concepts and tropes that are more Western European, with a little bit more of a Latin American wrapper. And then I've got this, which is Cosmos Latinos, which is an anthology of hundreds of years of speculative fiction from Latin America, and there's a couple in here from Spain as well. So really interesting anthology, because it kind of helps you realize that, you know, speculative fiction isn't like a new thing, and certainly not in Latin America, it's just something that's not really talked about. And then last but not least, there's this book that I'm still working my way through called Alter Mundos, Latinx Speculative Literature, Film, and Popular Culture, which is more essays and analysis and a breakdown about how Latin American cultures are interacting with speculative fiction, and how speculative fiction is influencing culture and vice versa. So that, I just want to show those kind of mirror what my journey has been. So,
given that you're from Uruguay, do you make a distinction between South America and Latin America as you think about these cultures? Or
that's a really interesting question, and I've had some conversations with some of the folks in the room about this in the last day or so. Being an immigrant in the U.S., having grown up here pretty much essentially my whole memory, my whole life here. I grew up in New Jersey and I grew up in South Florida, which both have very large immigrant Hispanic populations. And so for the bulk of my life, I have been part of that group. So, you know, a few beer wines here and there, not very many because there aren't many of us anymore. Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Mexicans, Costa Ricans, Ecuadorians, Venezuelans, you know, the list goes on and on, Peruvians. And as far as for my entire life and with those interactions, we were all homogenous because we're all immigrants, we all speak the common language, we all have a common experience, so we're all the same folks. What
You don't have that experience of national.
exactly? I mean, there's some national pride. I got flags and stuff, and it's like I don't watch soccer except when Uruguay plays, so because I'm not a fan. But I will watch my, you know, my home country play. But now, as I have gotten into futures and been working with folks in Latin America, I mean, I always knew it wasn't monolithic. But now I have to really internalize it's not monolithic because when we're here, like, you know, those of us who are, you know, identified as Hispanic, Latino, Latin American, however you want to look at it, you know, we kind of feel like, okay, yeah, we're the group. But there, I'm a citizen of like the only nation in Latin America that doesn't have anyone actively speaking indigenous languages or practicing indigenous customs. So, that's a lot. You know, coming from here, it's like, oh, you know, oh, we're a minority, you know, minority rights, and, you know, we want to, like, then being over there, I'm the other guy. And so interacting with folks in Brazil, in Paraguay, in Peru, in Colombia, where they've had a very different colonial experience, you know, here I'm an immigrant, there I'm part of the colonization. So, figuring that all out, it's been a really interesting experience to tread there, to try to tread lightly and try to be, you know, a partner, an ally, a friend, a champion when needed, you know, and an ambassador without the negativities that can happen from that. So, great question. So without further ado, I actually have slides, but I just wanted to kind of get that out there because I had to get it out. But I think it certainly helps me with the context, hope it helps you with the context as well. So the first thing I did want to talk about was, I mentioned I presented this before, a version of this, it's grown since, but with Ana Paula Medeiros, who is Brazilian, she lives in Brazil. She's a PhD student, she's a Brazilian Afrofuturist. She's incredible, she's amazing, she's great to work with. All the Brazilian content in here is hers, and some of the other stuff too, it's a blend. We partnered on this project. Originally I was going to do that project myself, and then I thought, well, Ana Paula knows a lot, and I chatted with her once or twice, and I said, you know, I want to partner on this. And then, I mean, she kind of took it and ran with it a bit, which was awesome. So I just want to make sure I give a shout out to her because she's amazing, and this presentation wouldn't be a quarter as good as it is without her input. And that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure I record it today, because she wanted me to record it. Okay. So, futurism, to define it for anybody who doesn't know, I'm sure you all do, is a wide variety of approaches and movements in the quest to explore alternative futures, including predictions, scientific movements, popular and societal speculation. They can be plural and artistic, strategic, and think about society in a systemic way. Much like the well-known Afrofuturism movement, which includes films, music, books, and various art forms, current component is controlling the narrative. It's kind of taking that narrative back from other folks that are telling your story. In a lot of cases, I'm the other folks here, so, but try to be cognizant of that. This is also why these futurisms also focus on near and ancient histories, as historical knowledge creates direction, agency, and ownership. Next, why rehumanizing? Did want to bring this up a bit. When we were talking about the topic, the theme for this meeting about being and becoming human, rehumanizing surfaces those diverse Latin American cultures. It focuses on creative endeavors that highlight histories and traditions, and it highlights the uniqueness of Latin America, making it additive. In my thought process is trying to bring Latin American culture and history back to the forefront, you know, as far as the world's concerned, and in some ways rehumanize populations that some parts of the world maybe don't, to this day, still consider to be, you know, a full part of the global family, or, you know, just on par in terms of humanity. And so, while I do believe that decolonization is important, and I've got references to it here, just the fact that that it can be subtractive. And actually, we've had some conversations with folks in this room about, you know, how do you decolonize when well, in a lot of cases, certainly in the U.S., we've got mixed cultures already, you know. So it gets kind of hard to decolonize when it's partially in your DNA as well. Rich?
Leading forward with that question, are you seeing resistance to various forms of futurism happening, say, among those in the community that consider themselves white within such countries as Argentina or Brazil?
I know that there is resistance just in general at times, and it's kind of similar to what we see in the U.S. sometimes whenever whatever the majority is, which in a lot of cases does tend to be white, and even if it's not the majority, then if it's the leading class or the ruling class, whenever they do feel threatened,